in just one moment. So, welcome. Thank you for spending your day with us, or the next 30 minutes, I should say. Feel free to let us know in the chat where you are joining us from, and we do want this to be a networking opportunity as well. So, feel free to pop your LinkedIn URL into there as well. We'd love for you all to be able to connect and grow your networks. But without further ado, I'd love to kick off this special Chat and Learn, our Berlin virtual meetup working for a distributed company. Very excited to be joined by Contentful for this special event. And my name is Rob. I am the Director of Events and Marketing at Power to Fly. I'll tell you a little bit more about us in just a moment. Joining you from New York City, actually, at the dog days of summer here in New York. So please, again, let us know where you are joining us from. Just here on the screen, you can see our code of conduct. There's lots of words on the screen, but basically, to summarize, it just says, don't be a jerk. And I do like to say that the content shared during Power to Fly events is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal advice. We would love you if you'd like to turn on your cameras. If you are eating your sandwich right now, no problem, but happy to have your turn your cameras on. We are recording this conversation, so no need to take notes. And if you are watching the recording, hello from the past, hello there in the future. We will be sending this recording out in the next few days, and we can also take some questions from the audience as well. So if you do have questions for Afiz and Gabrielle, please add those into the chat, and we will get to as many as possible. Just a real quick little information about Power to Fly. We help organizations recruit high performing and inclusive teams with exceptional events, sourcing campaigns, and expert guidance. We're 100% woman-led company backed by Morgan Stanley. And especially right now, we are really diving deep into AI. So we're really helping folks upskill their AI skills as well as helping companies find new AI talent. And very excited to be partnering with Contentful for this event. They have been a great partner. Right here on the page, you can see Contentful's page on Power to Fly. So there's lots of great information there about the company, their benefits, past events and videos and blog posts. And you can also see their open roles right there. So just after this event, go over to Contentful on Power to Fly or just Google Contentful and Power to Fly and you can find that and apply directly there. But without further ado, I'd love to also introduce today's two amazing special guests. First up, we have Afiz, who's a senior analytics engineer at Contentful. He's a seasoned data professional with over 6 years of experience driving analytics and business intelligence across tech companies in Berlin. And he also volunteers with the Nigerian community in Berlin. So thank you so much for being here. And we also have Gabrielle. Gabrielle is a B2B marketing leader with expertise in global event strategy, partner marketing, and digital campaigns. Someone after my own heart there. She previously was at Microsoft, where she scaled partner programs across Western Europe as well. So thank you both for being here. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen so we can all see each other and jump on in. So, my first question for both of you is, while you are both based in Berlin, neither of you are actually from here. And when I say here, I mean Berlin because I'm in New York. But what made you want to relocate to Berlin, and what was that experience like? Afiz, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, it's been a few years now. And thanks for the intro. So I studied in Germany, in the northern part of Germany, so a place called Kiel. And at the time, I was almost done with my studies, and I was looking for somewhere to really like kickstart my career. And Berlin was one of the few cities in Germany that offered lots of roles in tech and in English, which was really important for me at the time because my German wasn't great. So that's really what drew me to Berlin, the vibrant tech scene. lots of startups, the possibility to work in English. Um, and yeah, and it's been awesome since then. Berlin is really multicultural. I think you get to meet a lot of different people from different countries and different spaces. And I think that's been my experience so far, and that's why I came here. Gabby.
I can echo that. It's a super international city. It's so different from other cities in Germany, actually. We have so many foreigners here, and you're quite okay just speaking English. For me, why I came here was really a need of a change of the scenery. I was looking for an adventure, and I actually then ended up returning to Finland, where I'm from for a couple of years, and then my employer at the time asked if I would be happy to relocate back to Berlin, and I was because yeah, the communities here are quite amazing. The city offers something for everybody, um, and yeah, then I ended up staying and found Contentful. So here we are.
I love that. And speaking of international, we have lots of international folks on the line as well. We've got folks from Berlin and also from Munich, but I see someone from Maryland there. I see someone from Nigeria, so that is also great, and Utah and India, so all over, so super international. So I'm happy to have the folks here from Germany, but also maybe some people that are interested in also making that relocation journey. And speaking of international fees, Contentful is a very international company. What are some of those tips that you have for effectively communicating across time zones? Because I think that's one of the biggest hurdles I hear all the time is people are I always say I'm lucky because I'm in the Eastern time zone in the United States, and I feel like a lot of people kind of capitulate to our time zone. But I have a colleague who's in India, and he is up sometimes at midnight responding to me, and I know that can be tough. So, what are some of your tips for effectively communicating across those time zones?
Do you want to take the questions after and
Yeah,
someone at the
please.
end?
Yeah, go. You go ahead.
Okay, so I think there are several aspects to this question. So there is the cultural part of communicating with someone working in a different time zone in a different country, and there's the person trying to understand how they would like to communicate. And there's also, you know, working on the fly and trying to like write someone and get feedback immediately. So I'll start from understanding the different ops that you have. So a while ago in Contentful, we took our time to we got recommended this book by Erin Meyer, I think called The Culture Map. So you had a situation where you had folks in Berlin super happy about something, but it was always a 4/5, never perfect. And then you had folks in the US like 5/5 were happy about it. Both scores meant the same thing, but we just came about it in different ways. And then there's the person. So I think one framework that works there is like the DISC framework, where you try to understand what kind of person you're talking to and how they like to be communicated with. And the team aspect, for us, I have a colleague in Denver, and we worked on several projects, and it was quite tough because I'm finishing up the day, he's starting his day. So we had to somehow still get through our dailies, somehow still pass on information to each other. And there have been cases where there's been like it's been really tough to maybe stay longer just to get him onboarded, just to get some kind of handoff with him. And that also meant with Contentful, I didn't have to start earlier the next day. So that was an example of maybe trying to sacrifice. But a good one is really working with like tools like Slack, working async. So our dailies would then be like a bot trying to say, okay, what are you doing today? How do you feel? So we didn't do it like in a call like most teams would. So we then just like when you have time, you go there and then put in your replies into that, and then we summarize it maybe at the end of the week or something like that. So there are really different aspects to that, and I think trying to understand what the challenge is would really determine how you go about it. So that's some of the tips I think I have for that.
Yeah, I think understanding the way people work is so key because I'm someone I love written communication when we're working asynchronously, but I have some other colleagues that love a video or an audio message. But
Yeah,
when some colleagues send me a video and audio message, it's like I gotta keep going back and watching it again. Like I like to read it, but I understand other people don't like to do that. So I love kind of, I think it's very helpful to have that conversation, especially if you're working with someone in another time zone and say, okay, how would you like me to communicate with you? Do you want me to use an Asana kind of board with like those roles, or would you like it all through Slack? I think that's great. And I know we have a hand raise. If anyone wants to put questions, we won't want to turn microphones on just for the sake of time. But if you want to put questions into the chat box, we would love to hear from you, definitely there. But Gabrielle, I'll send it over to you kind of on a similar note. Working remotely and across time zones can sometimes lead to work-life imbalance. Like I just mentioned, my one colleague is up at midnight and he likes to do that, but of course not everyone wants to do that. So how do you set clear boundaries when working globally?
This one has been a big learning for me. I've really created my career in international environments, and in the beginning, I was available over those boundaries, to be honest. But later in time, I realized, especially after having a daughter, that kind of forced me to have those working hours separately from my personal hours. I've created a boundary and a strategy how to go on with it. And I've shared this with my manager and with my team. I have blocked my calendar in the evenings that I am with my daughter when I went to go and pick her up at 4 or 4:30 from the kindergarten, and then I'm with her. And then I have a couple days in a week that I'm working a bit later. So I have a chance to also sometimes catch colleagues that do work in a time zone where we have 9 hours difference. Um, and my all of my team is actually in the US, including my manager. So it's really crucial for me to have also a little bit flexibility there. And for me, this has been working really well. And I'm so lucky to have a manager who also understands that and respects that. And I also want to be respectful towards other people's time. So I schedule a lot of Slacks and emails. So I also therefore help the other person to understand that this is not so urgent, that you can really hold on until your actual workday starts to reply to me.
I think the scheduled Slack is a very underutilized and underappreciated tool. So I love that you're using that there. And I think you're right. I think it lets people know, hey, once you're online, I I'd appreciate a response, but this is not like stop what you're doing right now. And I think like both of you're saying is this comes down to communication and setting those clear boundaries from the beginning. And I think it's also a testament to the contentful culture as well, that this is something that sense of communication is encouraged. So that's great to hear. And I do want to address Sandeep's question in the chat. So thank you so much for adding that in. I've been applying for jobs in Germany, but finding visa-sponsored roles is really difficult. So I'm now considering another route, pursuing a master's degree in Germany first and then looking for a job afterwards. Do you think that this is a good approach? Afiz, I know you mentioned that you were finishing up your studies, so I don't know if you have any insight into Sandeep's question.
Uh, yeah, I think one thing you have to consider with studying and then trying to look for a job is you have to make sure your master's or your extended studies really does support the career you're trying to go into. So, and that would be easier for you to get your admission and also help you in your career. So your master has to be relevant to what you're trying to do in general. And that's so in Nigeria, I came in directly after my bachelor's, I think after my bachelor's and then service. So I didn't work there, so I've not followed this particular route. But I've seen people who have, um, you still have to find that job. And I think what your master's will also help you to do is really start with an internship or a working student and then develop into the role you want. And doesn't mean you have to start from scratch again. It just means you have to learn some things in that field and then find the full-time job that you really want. So I think that could really help. Just make sure it's relevant.
I would like to
Yeah.
I would like to add on that that I've lived now in 5 different countries, and I think my key advice when applying jobs overseas is the same as you just mentioned. It looks so much better and you look much more prominent candidate when you have some sort of connection to the country that you're applying to, no matter what it is, if it's a degree or even better, some sort of job experience, or at least a company or client that is familiar to the market that you're applying this job in. So uh, I can only echo what you just said, Afiz.
Thank you both so much. And I see someone also, expressing kind of their frustration there in the chat as well. And we totally get it. And I think you've also, I'll say, taken a great first step by attending an event like this. So just getting your name out there is great. Building your community from the other people who are online here. We're going to be sharing your information with Contentful. So even if there's not an open role there right now, they have your information for down the road. So I think that is all super helpful. Going back to some of the other questions that we had sent in before the event, Afiz, I'll send this one back to you. And I think this actually ties in really well with some of the stuff that we're hearing in the chat. Someone was asking, how can I stand out and grow my career when I'm not in the same region or working hours as leadership? And Gabrielle, you also mentioned this as well. Like your manager is in a different region, and I think we're hearing that a lot with hybrid work, where sometimes people who are in the office feel they might have an advantage, or there's at least a perception they might have an advantage in terms of leadership roles. So, Afiz, well, how do you seem to approach that in terms of growing your career when you're not in the same region of everyone you're working with?
So for me, it's really been about being seen and being heard. And that means trying to make sure I communicate everything that I'm doing or that I've done. So that goes in different ways, like kind of put your progress updates, documentation of work, and really just seeking the kind of opportunities that will put you out there. Uh, my manager, for example, I think is in the UK, which is still a close time zone. But we have a lot of stakeholders in the US. And from time to time, we go over to the US. This might not be an option for you. So I know my manager goes up to San Francisco regularly. I have some of my colleagues go to Denver. I'm in Berlin and I'm going to London in September. So we try to meet the people where they're at. And luckily, Contentful allows us to make those trips and really get closer to some of our stakeholders. And if you cannot do that, you really just have to do it in place. You have to get the word out there of what you're doing. In a way, as you have to kind of sell what you're doing. I know it might not seem like the thing that you should automatically be seen as valuable, but sometimes you have to show what you're doing, sell what you're doing, and get feedback and really, really nudge people to interact with what you're doing and yeah, get more engagement.
I love that. Yeah, no, I think sometimes you do have to turn that salesman on a little bit, and sometimes I
Yeah.
think you do have to do it more in remote and hybrid work as well, because it's not like your manager can just turn next to you and see sometimes the work you're doing. You do have to make it clear sometimes what you're working on. So I love that. And I saw a question from Yvonne in the chat saying, I'm an administrative person. Do international companies only consider tech individuals? I can definitely say they do not. I'm actually putting Contentful's open roles there, and I'm just seeing that there are account executive roles right now, there are customer success management roles. So it really does range the gamut. It is not strictly just tech roles in that way. And of course, if we were talking a lot about Berlin, especially before we kicked off some of the great things about Berlin. So Gabrielle, you've mentioned all these different countries that you lived. You were in Berlin, then you came back to Berlin. What are some of your favorite things about working in Berlin? What do you love so much about the city?
It has changed through the time since I've already been here about 7 years. But I would say still the variety of different cultures. When I go to a playground, I hear five different languages. My daughter can enjoy speaking all these different languages as well. She's now grown with four. And just the other day, I took her to the office with me, and she was able to use all those four languages within 1 hour in the office. So I find that super cool. I hope that's going to be an advantage for her at some point in her life. And I think Berlin is just extremely unique city. There's not a other place in this world that is like Berlin. It has formed from very unusual, through a very unusual history, and it has provided this crazy culture where people are very open-minded and outgoing, and there are so many microcultures that you can explore and find your own community. And people in generally are very warm-hearted. And someone from Finland, the weather is also good. You might disagree wherever you come from, but for me, as a Finnish person, it's pretty good.
We were talking a lot about the weather before we kicked off, and it sounded like it was very nice there today. And I love that. And I do think you're right. Like there, those advantages, even as a 4-year-old learning those languages, that is going to be so helpful later on in life. And I know as a member of the LGBTQ community, I know I've heard that it's a very inclusive city in that way. I definitely have to get myself there. So thank you so much. And we had a question from Valerie. I'd love to hear either of your opinions on this. Valerie was saying, do you have recommendations of the best place to find job postings in Berlin or the European Union? Same for networking opportunities to meet other professionals. I'll just start off by saying, of course, I'll talk up Power to Fly. You can go to Power to Fly and you can actually search by city in Power to Fly as well, or you can go to specific companies that you know might have a headquarters in Berlin, like Contentful, and see the open opportunities there. But Gabrielle or Afiz, any recommendations for seeing where job postings might be listed?
That's a good question. I'm gonna be honest with you. I have not applied jobs for a while. Usually the jobs have found me. So, but I would use LinkedIn is my number one tool to be in contact with people. I show up in different events. I talk to people. I try to network. I would say that usually the jobs are hidden, so the board might not be in your favor. It's maybe better to really reach out to people and go to events where you meet like-minded people who might be able to connect you to a right opportunity.
Yeah, I'll extend on that a bit. So I agree that the bots don't really help, but what some of the bots will do is show you the companies. And what I've done a lot of times is go directly to their website and see if there's a new post in there, because it might take a day or two before that gets to the bot. And when it gets to the bot, so many people are applying. So I would say use the bots to know the companies and what they do, and then just check their careers. It's very manual, but I think it's quite effective. And you might see some roles that you don't see elsewhere, or maybe they've taken it off the boards, but still not really filled and stuff like that.
Speed is your friend.
Yes, yeah. And I definitely recommend, reaching out to our speakers, to Contentful after this event, the other people who are just online here as well. So build that network there. And actually another question I'm just thinking about in the moment for both of you. If people are interested in relocating, should they be indicating that on their LinkedIn? Like Gabrielle, you mentioned people the jobs found you, but maybe they wouldn't have reached out like if they didn't know you were open to relocating. Is that something people should clarify if they're very serious about it, like upfront on their LinkedIn profiles?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if this is not your strength, you can ask help from AI. There are a lot of recruiting services where you can actually ask someone else to review your CV and your profile so you can connect the dots. Um, and yeah, I think also being active in LinkedIn in general is gonna give you leverage. If you're making actively, you can just maybe set up a post every week about different topics, more known you are to the LinkedIn community, more higher chance there is that you also will pop up when the recruiters are looking for certain candidates to different roles.
That's a great idea. I love kind of like the idea of scheduling a post and just getting yourself out there because, like all algorithms, the more you post, the higher your visibility is going to be. And I can tell you just from experience too, like Power to Fly, we're do a few events where relocation matters. And I know for our internal recruiting team, if they can go and look on your LinkedIn profile right away and say, oh, you're open to relocating, that's like a big plus. It helps them a lot there. Question from Yulia, I believe, in the chat. How do you manage the different choices of weekly day off? Some people have their day off on Sunday and others Friday or Saturday. Is that something either of you have experience with?
Not experienced, but I think someone in my team worked on I think 80% for a while, and she would always take I think Friday off. So I think it in Contentful we're quite flexible, so it depends on how you want to work your contract. And if you're talking about full time, it you see some cases maybe not in Contentful, but some companies I know do make instead of 8 hours per day, you do more hours in the first 4 days, and then you take one day off. Uh, I think in general in Germany, Sundays is day off, so and weekends usually Saturday, Sundays day off. So in our context, you're really working with Monday to Friday. So how you stack your hours really depends on you and your manager. And I know for content for sure, you could work with like percentage of a contract and still get your normal pay, but only a percentage of that that you work. So maybe that answers your question.
No, that's great. And I'm curious for both of you, was there a specific challenge or something that you would do differently when you did relocate to Berlin? Was there something you look back now and go, ah, if I would have done it this way, or there was a specific hurdle that you really felt that you did have to overcome? Anything like that?
Gabby, should I? So I can go. I think moving to Berlin from another city maybe was not that much of a big culture shock, but I've seen people experience that culture shock, and I've seen also trying to find apartments in Berlin and maybe not paying the right prices for it. So uh in some cases it's always it helps to have someone who knows the city well, or maybe in your company also help you understand what's the right price to pay for this apartment or something like that. Don't pay too much because you could end up paying half of your salary on an apartment that it's not really worth it. So that's the non-cultural aspect. That's just, being careful to not overspend. And yeah, for me, from another city, there wasn't a big one. It was really just about knowing where to stay because Berlin is quite big. And if you live in the wrong part of Berlin, you might end up spending 1.5 hours in the bus. So I think that's the biggest challenge I had around accommodations. And Gabby was, yes.
Um, Honestly, only thing that I can think of was COVID. I moved here just when COVID started. Like I literally just packed my bags and then it all hit. So my experience is probably very different from any of yours who would be interested in moving here. But there was nothing so surprising. The bureaucracy in this city is, well, this country is very thick. So if you do get help from an employer to navigate through that, that's going to be a great benefit for you, especially if you do not speak German. Um, but already knowing the culture from before, this wasn't really a surprise. But if you're looking to moving to Germany, be prepared. There's going to be a lot of paperwork and it's going to be on paper. So,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear that in the United States too for people moving here. So I know that I've heard that experience. And my last question for both of you as we start to wrap up. Of course, we talked a lot about networking and both of you were saying in terms of finding roles to expand your network. What advice would you have for anyone online in terms of networking best practices, whether that's in person in Berlin or Germany or on LinkedIn or in a virtual space like this? Like, what's one tip for people who are looking to expand their network or put themselves out there?
I would maybe have two tips. One, be open, but don't be pushy. If someone doesn't reply to you, if you reach out one more time, that's it. Don't harass people with messages so that you still leave a good impression because the market is small. There's a huge chance that you might bump into these people again. So make sure to leave a good and respectful impression from the start. And another one, don't give up. It honestly might sometimes feel like such a waste of time that nobody's really interested and you put all these hours in. But it will pay off in the end. So
I think
don't
that that's great advice. And Afiz, what about you?
Uh, kind of an odd one. I'll say recruiters are your friends because I got to Contentful by recruiter. I didn't even apply here. Someone reached out to me and I was like, I'm not sure if I want this role. And now it's turned out to be a really good decision. So really be open to recruiters when they reach out to you. Sometimes you think it's sales, but sometimes it might just be the opportunity you're looking for. And I'll say when you have that network set up or when you have people around you, remember to really use the network you have around you already. So if you need connections on a certain role, you need to know something, just ask people around you. They might be able to direct you to more people. So really use what you already have to extend that more.
I love that. Yes, and I love the idea of making recruiters your friend. And I always say if you're reaching out to a recruiter, make sure you include as much information as possible. If you're interested in a specific role, include that job ID, give them all the information because you don't want to have to get into a back and forth like that. And I also loved what you said, Gabrielle, too, about not hounding people because often I'll forget to check my messages and then I'll go 4 weeks later and I'll go, "Oh, I'm happy to now talk to you, but maybe I just missed it." And I think a lot of people have that experience. But thank you both so much. This was so great. I hope everyone got something out of this conversation. And I do want to draw everyone's attention to Contentful's page on Power to Fly. So I just actually popped that into the chat, or if you're listening to this recording, go to powertofly.com and search Contentful. You can find all of their open roles there as well as their benefits. So check that out there. But thank you both so much for all of these wonderful insights today. And thank you all for taking 30 minutes out of your time, out of your day today to join us for this conversation. Power to Fly hosts events like this every single week, so check back on powertofly.com for upcoming events, and we'll see you there. Thank you all, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.